Ready to step off the map from the most hidden alleyways to the stories nobody told you? Uncharted Alleyways begins now. Your definitive guide and travel podcast, culture, adventure, and the world as you've never heard it. Tune in, disconnect from the obvious, and come explore with us. Uncharted Alleyways, your next trip starts here. If you stand on the pavement just outside Napoli Central Station for, say, 5 minutes, you are going to witness something that completely defies all conventional logic.
No, absolutely. It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, in that short window, you will likely see dozens of apparent traffic violations. You'll hear half a dozen people just yelling over the roar of these engines.
And the smells, too. It's this wild mix.
Right. It's this bizarre clash of diesel exhaust mixed with, like, baking bread and burning olive wood.
Yeah.
So to a first-time visitor clutching a suitcase, it genuinely feels like an immediate panic attack.
A shock to the system.
Exactly. But to a local, it is a perfectly calibrated, entirely functional symphony. And today, for this deep dive, we are heading straight into the center of that symphony.
We really are. We're looking at Naples.
Yes, Naples, a city that does not operate on a predictable mechanical tick-tock, but rather on this wildly biological, fiercely passionate pulse.
It is a city that, demands your full attention from the very second you arrive, and it absolutely refuses to be ignored.
Which is why today's source material is so compelling. We are working from a richly detailed travel narrative that attempts to capture the vibrant, unapologetic essence of Naples.
And they do a fantastic job of it.
They really do. Our mission for this deep dive is to take these field notes, extract the core insights, and help you, the listener, understand why Naples' famous chaos, which overwhelms so many outsiders, is actually a highly intricate, necessary rhythm.
It requires a complete recalibration of your senses, really.
Ah.
And what the source text does so well is contrast this intense arrival with the approach to the city, which is incredibly serene.
Oh, the approach is beautiful. The text paints this almost cinematic picture of the journey south. Imagine you are leaving the quiet, watery canals of Venice behind.
Gliding along on a high-speed train.
Right. You're racing past the monumental ruins of Rome, just heading deep into the sun-soaked landscapes of southern Italy. You look out the window, and the physical environment is visibly shifting.
The colors change completely.
They do. You start seeing these vast olive groves stretching across the hillsides. Lemon trees pop up in these vibrant bursts of yellow right beside quiet country roads.
And then, the Mediterranean begins to glimmer in the distance.
Yeah, the visual cues are essentially preparing you for a completely different climate, both literally and culturally.
It's setting the stage.
And then the landscape just opens up. You are looking at the magnificent Bay of Naples. You have fishing boats drifting across the sparkling blue water, and rising proudly, almost menacingly in the background, is the unmistakable silhouette of Mount Vesuvius.
Right, a constant looming geological reminder of nature's power, just standing watch over millions of people.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because looking at the city from the safety of a climate-controlled train window is one thing. Actually, arriving in the city is an entirely different physical experience.
Oh, it's night and day.
It is. To really understand how a city functions, you have to walk through its front door. And for Naples, that front door is the central train station, Napoli Central.
Which is, frankly, one of the most intense transportation hubs in all of Europe. It completely strips away any buffer you might have expected.
Yeah, the source notes describe stepping outside that station as plunging into immediate, unfiltered sensory overload. You have cars, aggressive street vendors, large families walking shoulder to shoulder.
And you look up, and the sky is just partially blocked by laundry.
Right. Hanging from balconies, crisscrossing the narrow streets several stories up. And the scooters are weaving through dense, moving traffic with terrifying confidence.
They really don't hesitate.
Not at all. And neighbors are literally leaning out of windows, shouting greetings down to the street or across the alleyways. And the smells, like we mentioned, are aggressively layered.
It's that dense city smog cutting against, fresh, dark espresso.
Sweet tomatoes, crushed basil, and that unmistakable char of wood-fired pizza ovens.
What's fascinating here is the mechanics of that environment. Because while a traveler might legitimately need a day or two just to downregulate their nervous system after stepping into that plaza.
Oh, for sure I wouldn't need a nap.
Right, but what you are actually witnessing is a highly functioning ecosystem. The text notes that the illusion of disorganization completely fades once you observe how the pieces actually interact.
Like the traffic, for instance.
Exactly. Let's take the traffic.
Hmm?
To a North American driver used to strict lanes and timed stoplights, a Neapolitan intersection looks like impending death.
Honestly, it does.
But the traffic finds a fluid flow because it operates on real-time, hyper-aware negotiation rather than just, passive obedience to a light.
Wait, calling it a fluid flow or a hyper-aware negotiation sounds incredibly academic. When I have a Vespa blowing past my shoulder with inches to spare, I'm not thinking about negotiations.
You're just trying to survive.
I'm just trying not to get hit. So how is a system with virtually no enforced traffic rules actually functional?
Well, it worked precisely because nobody's relying on a red light to keep them safe.
Yeah.
In a heavily regulated system, drivers go on autopilot.
They just trust the infrastructure.
Right. Exactly. They trust the lights. In Naples, the infrastructure is more of a suggestion. So drivers are forced to make constant eye contact. They read body language.
So they have to be present.
Very present. If a pedestrian steps into the street with confidence, the scooters naturally part and flow around them like water around a stone.
Oh, wow.
And those people yelling from the windows, they aren't just making noise. They are passing vital community information, negotiating space, and maintaining social bonds in this hyper-dense environment. It's an active social contract, constantly being rewritten second by second.
So it's more like a flock of birds. There's no central traffic controller telling the birds where to fly. Each one is just reacting instantaneously to the bird immediately next to them.
That is a much more accurate way to look at it, actually. The coordination is local and immediate, not top-down.
That makes me think of jumping into a game of double Dutch jump rope.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Yeah, if you are standing on the pavement, just watching from the outside, it looks violent. The ropes are whipping around, the people inside are moving incredibly fast. You think, if I step in there, I am going to get completely tangled up and knocked over.
Right, you'll ruin the flow.
Exactly. But if you actually want to cross the street in Naples, you can't hesitate or act unpredictably. You just have to take a breath, step in, and follow the rhythm of the person walking next to you. The mechanics of the street only make sense once you commit to being inside the rhythm.
And the city demands that commitment. You cannot observe Naples passively. It forces you to jump into the ropes.
Because the traffic and the density create this constant physical pressure, it naturally pushes you into the narrower arteries of the city where cars simply can't fit. And the main artery, the one the source text spends a lot of time on, is Spaccanapoli.
Ah, yes. The street that literally translates to Naples Splitter.
The geography of it is wild. It's this incredibly long, incredibly narrow street that appears to slice the historic center cleanly into two distinct parts if you look at it from above.
It's like a surgical cut through the city.
Yeah, and the text details walking down it. And it sounds overwhelming in its own way. You've got tiny bakeries with their doors propped open, displaying fresh pastries. Heavy church bells are echoing down these stone alleyways.
The acoustics must be incredible.
Absolutely. You're passing microshops selling handcrafted leather goods, books, and these famous, incredibly elaborate nativity scenes. And even though there are fewer cars, you still have those scooters passing with practiced precision right past your elbows.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at how this specific street challenges our modern concept of preservation. Naples boasts one of Europe's largest, oldest historic centers.
It's huge.
But it does not function like a normal heritage site. In most global cities, history is treated as a fragile artifact.
Right, it gets roped off.
Exactly. Rubbed off, polished, placed behind thick museum glass, and given a little explanatory placard.
It gets sanitized.
Precisely. Becomes something you look at but don't touch. Naples, on the other hand, wears its history naturally as a living habitat.
Living right on top of it.
Yeah, you have generations of families living in apartments built into structures that have stood for centuries. Small businesses are operating out of stone alcoves that might have been part of a Roman villa or a medieval palace.
That's amazing.
The past and the present aren't separated by velvet ropes. They share the exact same address.
I hear you on the romantic idea of living history, but practically speaking, doesn't that just ruin the artifacts?
How so?
Well, if I open a modern commercial bakery in a 500-year-old stone alcove, install industrial ovens, and have thousands of people tracking dirt through it every day, aren't I destroying the very history we're supposed to be preserving? Doesn't living on top of history make people take it for granted?
That is the core tension of urban conservation. But the Neapolitan approach relies on the mechanics of utilitarian history.
Utilitarian history.
Okay. Think about how a building survives for 1,000 years. If a structure is just a roped-off monument, its survival depends entirely on state funding, which is always precarious.
Right. Budgets get cut.
Exactly. But if a 500-year-old stone building houses a thriving bakery, the baker is going to fix the roof when it leaks. The baker is going to maintain the structural integrity because their livelihood depends on it.
Because it's useful.
Yes. By stripping away the preciousness and using these ancient spaces for modern commerce and daily life, they're actually ensuring the physical survival of the structures.
Modifying the space preserves it.
Precisely. The history isn't a dead artifact to be mourned, it's a foundation to be built upon. The laundry lines strung between historic balconies and the flower pots resting on ancient stone aren't a sign of disrespect. They are proof that the history is still relevant enough to support human life.
Which is a beautiful concept, but let's be honest, living in that kind of density has to be exhausting. The relentless acoustic energy of the historic center, the scooters echoing off the stone walls, the sheer density of human life pressing in on you.
It takes a toll.
There is a physical limit to how much sensory input a brain can take. But here's where it gets really interesting. The source text reveals that just when the noise threatens to completely overwhelm you, the city offers these incredibly deliberate mechanical shifts in the environment.
Naples is a masterclass in sensory contrast.
The text takes us off Spaccanapoli and guides us inside the Naples Cathedral. And the shift isn't just visual, it's architectural and acoustic.
It's an entirely different world.
You step off that vibrant, chaotic, loud street, and suddenly you are in this massive volume of empty space. Sunlight is gently filtering through stained glass windows. Elegant columns are rising up toward beautifully decorated ceilings.
And the silence.
Yes, the silence is so sudden it almost makes your ears ring.
The acoustic vacuum inside a massive stone cathedral after being on a Neapolitan street physically drops your heart rate. It's an immediate physiological change.
And from there, the text guides us out of the dense alleyways entirely, opening up onto the Lungomare.
The waterfront.
Yes, this is the scenic waterfront promenade stretching along the Bay of Naples. You suddenly have spectacular, unobstructed views of the Mediterranean, Vesuvius across the water, and fishing boats just gently bobbing in the harbor.
A total shift in perspective.
The claustrophobia of the alleyways is instantly cured by this massive expanse of sky and water.
And notice the mechanism of how you experience those places.
Yeah.
If Naples were entirely made of quiet cathedrals and beautiful seaside promenades, it would feel like a sleepy resort town.
Right.
But if it were entirely made of the chaos of Napoli Central, it would be unlivable.
The contrast is doing the heavy lifting. I used to think of places like the cathedral as just being an eye of the hurricane where you hide from the storm, but it's more active than that. It acts like a pressure valve for your brain.
That's the psychological brilliance of the city's layout. The quiet moments in Naples feel intensely earned. They are intentionally carved out of the noise.
Yeah, you appreciate the quiet more.
You appreciate the vast, open horizon of the Mediterranean on the Lungomare, precisely because you just spent 2 hours navigating a labyrinth of incredibly narrow, dark alleyways. The noise and the chaos actually manufacture the value of the quiet moments.
The tension creates the release. And sitting on that Lungomare, letting your brain process all that open space, naturally draws your eye down to the ancient stones of the waterfront itself.
Which is steeped in history.
Deeply. Which brings us to a fascinating part of the source text, where it explores how the city's deep, ancient mythologies are directly linked to its modern daily routines.
The physical landscape and the cultural psyche are deeply intertwined here.
Right out near the waterfront stands the Castel dell'Ovo, which translates to the Castle of the Egg. It is one of the oldest and most imposing landmarks in Naples.
It's massive.
And the local legend tied to it is just brilliant. The myth states that the entire fate of this massive, heavy stone fortress is tied to a single, fragile, mysterious egg that the poet Virgil supposedly hid deep within its foundations.
And a very specific myth.
Right. And if the egg breaks, the castle falls, and the city faces catastrophe.
It's a striking contradiction. You have a massive military fortress designed to project impenetrable, immovable strength, and its mythological survival relies entirely on a hidden, delicate egg.
It's a great story. But the text then pivots from this grand, ancient myth to something incredibly mundane and modern Neapolitan coffee culture. It dives into the mechanics of getting an espresso in a neighborhood cafe.
Which is arguably the most important daily function in the city.
Oh, without a doubt. Grabbing an espresso in Naples is not like sitting in a North American coffee shop with a laptop for 3 hours.
No, not at all.
It is a fast, highly choreographed daily ritual. Locals arrive at their specific neighborhood spot. They exchange very quick, familiar greetings. They take their espresso standing at the counter.
Often pairing it with a sfogliatella.
Oh, that amazing flaky pastry filled with sweet ricotta.
Yes.
And within 3 minutes, they are back out on the street.
This raises an important question about how societies function under pressure. When you put the myth of the castle and the reality of the coffee shop side by side, you start to see a pattern.
A pattern.
Yes. How do grand urban legends, like a hidden egg holding up a heavy stone fortress, actually mirror the seemingly insignificant daily rituals that hold a real modern community together?
So what does this all mean? Are you saying the espresso is the egg?
Think about the mechanics of that 3-minute coffee break. It is a tiny, fragile, almost invisible moment in an otherwise chaotic, loud, and demanding day. But it is the ultimate touch point of stability.
A touch point.
Right. It's where you make eye contact with your neighbors. It's where you acknowledge you are part of a shared social fabric before you dive back into the double Dutch jump rope of the traffic in the alleyways.
That makes total sense.
If you remove that tiny, reliable ritual, the community structure loses its anchor. The social contract that keeps the scooters from hitting the pedestrians starts to crack.
That is a phenomenal insight. It's the concept of microstability enabling macro chaos. Highly chaotic, fast-paced systems, whether that's a startup company, a busy family life, or the streets of Naples, can only survive without collapsing if they are built on top of rigid, immovable micro-routines. The massive, swirling structure of the city can only remain standing because there is a tiny, stable core holding it all up.
The famous Neapolitan chaos is only sustainable because the foundation is so deeply, securely rooted in immovable daily ritual.
Which brings us to the final sensory shift detailed in the source notes, the evening hours. Because as the sun begins to set over the Bay of Naples, the mechanics of the city change gear once again.
The lighting completely changes.
The golden light starts washing over the tufa stone buildings. The restaurants along the waterfront and tucked into the alleyways start pulling their tables out into the street. The sharp smell of morning espresso is completely gone.
Replaced by dinner.
Exactly. Replaced by the heavy, rich aromas of garlic hitting hot oil, simmering tomatoes, and freshly baked pizza dough.
The physical temperature of the air drops, but the social energy actually warms up.
Exactly. The text notes that musicians start performing in the open squares. You have children laughing and kicking soccer balls across the cobblestone piazzas while their parents eat dinner nearby.
That sounds idyllic.
It does. The city doesn't go to sleep. The noise level doesn't even necessarily drop, but the tone of the noise shifts. It stops being about transportation and commerce and becomes about connection. It just gets warmer, softer, and infinitely more welcoming.
It's the psychological reward for navigating the friction and the heat of the day. The city challenges you all morning and then feeds you all evening.
It really does. So to recap our journey through the source notes for you today, we started by stepping off the train and plunging straight into the complex, unspoken social contract of Napoli Central's traffic.
The double Dutch jump rope.
Yes, the double Dutch jump rope. We walked down Spaccanapoli, unpacking the utilitarian mechanics of how the past and present physically survive by sharing the same space.
Living on top of history.
Right. We looked at how the profound silence of the cathedral and the open air of the Lungomare act as necessary pressure valves for the brain. And finally, we uncovered how both ancient myths and a simple shot of espresso serve the exact same function, providing the microstability necessary to survive the macro chaos.
It's a city that aggressively challenges your expectations of how urban spaces should function, and in doing so, it forces you to look a little closer at the invisible rules governing your own environment. Which leaves us with a new, but related, thought to walk away with.
I'm intrigued.
We talked a lot about foundations today. The egg under the castle, the coffee holding up the day.
Hidden anchors.
Right. But consider this. When Naples recently expanded its modern subway system, Metro Line 1, the engineers didn't just dig through the dirt. They constantly hit ancient Greek and Roman ruins, including a massive ancient temple dedicated to the Olympic Games.
Oh, wow. I mean, digging in Italy, you're bound to hit something.
Constantly. In most cities, development either destroys the old or the old completely stops the development. But in Naples, they just redesigned the modern subway stations to literally wrap around and incorporate the ancient temples. They built the future by routing it directly through the foundations of the past.
They didn't pave over it, they worked with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we apply that mechanical reality to our own lives, which can often feel just as chaotic as a Neapolitan street, what are the ancient, immovable foundations in your own life?
Oh, that's good.
What are the core values, the deep-seated relationships, or the quiet beliefs that you shouldn't be trying to pave over or, optimize away? When you are building your own modern subway line, your career, your busy schedule, what is the foundation you need to intentionally design your life around rather than trying to destroy?
What an incredible question to leave on. Identifying what must remain untouched so the rest of your life can keep moving. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take some time to figure out what your hidden egg is, stay curious, and we will catch you on the next